Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's doing good today. We're going to move on to our next topic, our next lesson, and that's talking about triangles. Okay, we're going to kind of learn a little bit about the angles of a triangle, what they add up to, how to find them. When you're given two, how do you find the third one? Little things like that. So we're going to talk a lot about triangles today. In our textbook, we're on page 146 to 149. And in your handouts that you've got, it's Unit 4, Lesson 6. Okay, so make sure you have that stuff in front of you. Refer to that as I'm going here. Okay, so the first thing we want to understand about triangles is how they're labeled. So usually you will have a triangle, and each point of a triangle, each vertex, will be labeled with a letter. So in this case, you can see I've got the letters A, B, C. And now if you see this symbol, so this symbol is angle, and that symbol is triangle. So these do mean a little bit different thing, and you could have ABC, ABC. Okay, so this means triangle ABC. That would just be referring to this as a whole. And this means angle ABC. An angle ABC would look like this. A, B, C. That would be referring to this angle, the B angle. So whatever letter is in the middle, that's what it's representing. So it's not representing angle A, and it's not representing angle C. A, B, C is representing angle B. Okay? So in this example, we're obviously looking at B as 55 degrees. Now, how would I write this if I wanted to represent angle C? Simply, I would either go BCA or ACB. That doesn't matter. So angle ACB. ACB, C's in the middle. That would be talking about C. Let's take our protractor real quick and measure. If you remember from our measuring lesson, we put that on the vertex, get that at 0, and it's about 55 as well. Okay, so angle ACB is also 55. What about angle CAB? Remember, A is in the middle, so we're referring to A here. And that one is about 60. No, let me see here. It's a little closer to 70. Okay, so about 70 degrees. So this one's a little bit bigger than these two. So that's how you refer to an angle, is by labeling the 3 points that are involved, and the middle one is the one that you're actually measuring. So that's how you measure an angle, or how you refer to an angle in a triangle. And we're going to come across that a little bit in this assignment, where it'll say angle ABC or DEF or GHI, and you're always looking at that middle letter. Where's the middle letter? Okay? Now I have a question for you. How many degrees are in a triangle? Is it the same every time? Well, it actually is. It is the same every single triangle. It doesn't matter if your triangle looks like this, if it looks like this, or if it looks like this. They all have the same number of degrees. And what I say by they have the same number of degrees, what I mean is these angles will add up to a certain number. I'm going to get to that number in a second. And the answer for this is going to be the same as these 3 angles, and it's going to be the same as these three angles. So if I added all these, and I added all these, and I added all these, my answer will always be the same. Well, you might say, well, I don't know if I believe that. So here's what I'm going to challenge you with. We're going to prove it this way. I want you to get a piece of paper. Any piece of paper, scrap piece of paper. Okay? So you grab yourself a blank white piece of paper, and you're going to get a pencil and a ruler. So I'll give you a second to grab yourself a ruler and a pencil. Okay, and I want you to draw a triangle. Any triangle. I don't care what shape or what size the angles are. You just make a triangle. Okay, so you draw two straight lines there. They're connected, and now you just simply connect the two ends of those last two lines. Okay, so everybody's got their own triangle. There's my triangle. Now what you're going to do is I want you to put a little X in each of the corners of this triangle. So just a little X like that. X, X, X. Okay? And now I want you to take some scissors and cut the triangle out. So hopefully all of us have a different looking triangle with different angles to it. It might look like this or this or this. I'm going to prove to you that it doesn't matter. Okay, you're going to cut that out. Do your best to stay on your line that you drew. Make nice straight cuts so that this works out for us. Okay? So you've got your triangle here. Now what I want you to do is you're going to chop, chop, chop each corner off. So I'm going to cut this corner off. Okay, so I took that one right off. I'm going to put it down. I'm going to take this one off. Okay, so I took this one off. I'm going to put it down. And then I want to take this one and cut it off. Okay, so you should be left with this little piece. This is garbage now. You don't need this one. But what I do want you to do is I want you to take your three pieces and line them up so the X's are all right beside each other. Okay, just like that. Then I want you to draw a line of what it looks like on the top where the X's are. I know my line's a little squiggly. I didn't have a nice, I had to hold it up at the board, but I think you kind of get the point. My line was straight. Okay? If I put my three pieces up there again, if I put my three pieces up here, they're going to go right up to that straight line. And they match up with it perfectly. And I'll bet every one of you could also do the same thing. So they always make a straight line. Always. No matter what kind of a triangle you had. So, how many degrees is a straight line? Well, remember, the other day we learned that this is called a straight angle. And we also learned that a straight angle has only one measurement, 180 degrees. So, what that tells us is that this plus this plus this equals 180 degrees. This plus this plus this equals 180 degrees. This, this, and this, 180 degrees. Well, I guess there's only one more thing we can do to help prove this to you, and that is use a protractor, and let's measure some of these. Now, the only little thing with my angles, my triangles here, is my lines aren't perfectly straight. So I'm assuming I'm going to add up real close to 180, if not get right on. So that one's 60. This one is 55. This one is 65. So 60 plus 55 plus 65 equals, you guessed it, 180. Okay, here I got 90. Here we got about 40-ish. And here we've got around 50. Yep, 180. Let's look at our big guy over here. Okay, we've got about 125. Over here, got about 20. And here I got about 135, or sorry, 35, almost 35. $180. Okay, I would challenge you to use a protractor and measure those three angles that you cut out. Or draw any kind of a triangle, any kind of triangle at all, measure the three angles. And I'll bet you're always going to add up to 180. So, to answer our question, how many degrees are in a triangle? What do the angles, interior angles of a triangle always add up to? 180 degrees. Every single time. That's an important concept that you're going to need to know for a lot of math in years to come. Triangles, 180 degrees on interior angles. Okay, so that kind of gets us to what we're going to do today with some of our questions. So, let's just do this. Triangle equals 180 degrees. That's a really important concept. That's one that we need to know and understand. We also know this, that a straight angle will add up to 180 degrees. Therefore, if I make this angle and this angle, I know that in total I've got 180 degrees. And if somebody told me that this one here was a 30-degree angle, I'm going to call this A, B, C, D. So I'm going to say that ABD equals 30. What does angle DBC equal? Well, we know that the whole thing is 180. We know that this part is 30. What kind of math do we have to do? What are the four operations? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Well, in this case, subtract. 150 degrees are left. So therefore, DBC, that's this angle, is 150 degrees. Pretty important concept for us to know as we get into triangles. 180 degrees on the interior angles. A straight line, if we're given one, we should be able to find the second angle by doing some simple subtraction. Okay, let's get into a couple of the questions that you're going to see in your assignment now. So, what I'll first do is I'm going to refer to the textbook, and after the textbook I'll go to the pages that I've given you as take-home assignments, and finally I'll get into some of the EP questions. But, of course, they're all going to be very similar and add on to each other in a similar type of way. So I'm just going to flip to page 148. So the work questions are on 148. I don't want you to worry about question number 1 or question number 10. There's some dot paper questions. We won't worry about those right now. But for example, let's look at question 2. So it gives us a triangle that looks something like this. And it tells us that these bottom two angles are 75 and 50. And it leaves this one blank. And the question asks us, how much is the missing angle? Okay, well, we know that a triangle, the interior angles will add up to 180 degrees. So again, you've got to do some math. Now, what kind of math do you have to do? Okay, first step should be taking the two angles that you do know and adding them up. So 75 and 50, add them up, and you get 125 degrees have been used up in those two angles. We know that there should be 180 in total. So now, 180 minus what we've already used up. And what do we get? 65. Oh, is that quite right? No? 55. Okay, so 55. Therefore, this angle here is 55 degrees. Okay. Now, adding, subtracting. Seems pretty simple, right? Okay, let's get into that next one. The next one, it actually only gives you one number. However, it also gives you a symbol. So it says this is 35 degrees, and it goes like that. What does this symbol mean? Okay? This symbol means right angle. Well, what is a right angle? We learned that the other day with one of our 5 angles that we did. And we knew that just like a straight line has only one measurement, 180 degrees, a right angle only has one measurement, and that is 90 degrees. So they actually gave us two numbers. Okay, so they like to be a little bit tricky sometimes. So, again, going back to what we did last time, we should add up what we know. 90 and 35. Okay, 125 degrees are used up. I think this is the same answer as our last one. 180 minus 125 leaves us with a 55 degree angle here. Okay? Perfect. We found the missing angle. So finding the missing angle when you're given two of the angles is pretty simple. Add up what you have and subtract that answer from 180 degrees. Okay. Now, what if they give you this type of a question? So again, they got to try to make it tricky on you. So you have to understand and know what certain symbols mean. So what if they give you this? They give you a triangle like this. So they say that this angle here is 100 degrees, and these two angles are the same letter. What does that tell you? Well, that tells you that these should have the same measure. Because if these were a different measurement, a different number, you'd have to put like a letter Y or a letter Z or something over here. But if you've got the same letter, should mean same measure. Same as if it was the same symbol equals the same measure. Well, what would a symbol look like? Well, a symbol might look like this. So maybe this here is 15. No, let's not do 15. Let's do 20. Let's say that that's 20. And then they do this. Those are symbols. Lines on the inside. Sometimes you get a double line. Okay, a double line. Now if the lines or the symbols are the same, the measure is the same. So the numbers will be the same. If you get this and they go 1 and 2, these symbols are different. If the symbols are different, the measures will be different. Even if it looks the same, it might just be 1 or 2 degrees different. But if the symbols are different, the measures are different. If the symbols are the same, the measures are the same. Okay. So let's figure out what this will be. Well, again, we add up what we're given. Well, we're only given one number. Okay, so let's work with that, one number. We know that there's 180 in total in here, so let's take what we have off. 180 minus 100 leaves us with 80. Okay, so we have 80 split up between two angles. Split up though. So the word split up should give you a hint as to what operation to use. Add, subtract, multiply, or divide. In this case, when we split something up, we would divide it up. Divide it into 2. So 2 into 80, or you could write it as 80 divided by 2. However you want to write it, you're going to get an answer of 40 degrees. So this is 40. This is 40. And then if I add it up, 100 plus 40 plus 40 equals 180 degrees. Perfect. Okay. So they don't always have to give us two angles for us to be able to find the third angle. Sometimes there'll be symbols, letters, or just little tricks to try to get you to think. I'll give you one more tricky one that I think you'll find in this assignment. Okay, what if they give you this? Okay, so inside the triangle, they've only given you one number. They say that that's 30 degrees. They say that that's a 30-degree angle. This is X and this is Y, so they're unknown. We don't know what they are. Obviously, we could use our protractor to find those angles. But we don't need a protractor is the point. We can just do some simple math to get a very accurate answer. Because we know that this is a straight line, and a straight line makes 180 degrees. Okay? So if 180, we've used up 100, that must mean that Y equals 80 degrees. So we use information that we're given. Now we're given two interior angles. 80 plus 30 is 110. Inside the triangle, so 30x and y should add up to 180. Minus from our 110, and we're left with a 70-degree angle over here. So x and y looked similar, but they're just a little bit different. One's 70, one's 80. Okay, those are the types of questions that you're going to run into in the textbook. Questions 2, 3, 4, etc. I want to point you to question number 6. Okay, number 6 in your textbook has 3 questions to it. And they're just kind of yes or no, prove it to be type questions. It says, is it possible for a triangle to have more than one obtuse angle? Okay, well let's think about that. Obtuse is an angle that is between 90 and 180 degrees. Okay, now if a triangle adds up to 180 degrees, what's the smallest possible obtuse angle that you could have? The smallest one is 91 degrees. Well, what's 91 plus 91? What if we had 2 of them? Okay, there's no such thing as a triangle with more than one obtuse angle. Can't be done, because the two smallest obtuse angles added up are already too much. So a triangle with an obtuse angle would look like this, but then we can see that these two angles are really small, so we call that acute. Okay, hopefully you remember that. Okay, so no, cannot have more than one obtuse angle. What about two right angles? Can a triangle have two right angles? And if we remember, a right angle is exactly 90 degrees. Well, if you have two of them, 90 plus 90, you're already at your limit. So you couldn't have a third angle if you had two right angles. So there's a right angle. If I made another right angle, I would never touch this line. I'm starting to look like I'm making a square. So this is 90 and this is 90. What do we call these two lines here then if these two are 90? I'll give you a second to think about it. These two lines, they're never going to meet because these are both 90 degrees. They're called parallel. These are like train tracks. They're never going to meet. Okay, so if they're never going to meet, you can never make that point of a triangle. So, nope, you cannot have two right angles in one triangle. And the third one is, could you have three acute angles? So remember, acute is less than 90 degrees. Okay? Let's see, are there three numbers that will add up to 180 that are less than 90? I'm going to give you a second to think about that. Okay, maybe you want to pause the video and do some math to see if you can get this. The answer is yes, there are several combinations. For example, we know that 60 plus 60 plus 60 is 180 degrees. These are all less than 90 degrees. Okay, so there's one set of acute angles that equals that. Well, what if this was 61, 60, and 59? Those are all acute angles. What if we had 62, 50, and you get my point. There are lots of triangle combinations with three acute angles. Okay? So, on a question like that, it asks you to describe with pictures or some math, adding up to 180 degree with different angles, understanding what an obtuse angle is, what a right angle is. And so that's kind of how you would explain some of those, prove some of these things. Okay? So that's kind of your textbook stuff. If you look at your worksheet, the exact same type of questions. It gives you two angles and it asks you to find the third angle. Or sometimes it gives you three angles and it says, is this possible to make a triangle out of these? So in that case, what do you think you'd have to do to those three angles? You'd have to add them up. Correct. Sometimes it'll give you three angles and it'll ask you to draw the triangle. I'll give you an example. Number 1C. It says a triangle has a 45 degree, 45 degree, 90 degree on its three angles. And it says if the triangle can be drawn, draw it and label it. Okay. Well, I know that 90 plus 45 plus 45 equals 180. So yes, it is possible. Now it's my job to draw it. Wow, how am I going to do this? So I think I can do this pretty simple. Okay, I'm going to draw a straight line. I'm going to take my trusty protractor here. And I'm going to make a 90 degree mark. So I put the 0 there, put my center here on the line, and put a mark at 90 so that I can then go straight out from here. Okay, so I've got this one taken care of. Now, how do I make these the same? How do I make them both 45? Well, here's what I would do. I'm going to pick a point, any point. I'm going to take this point right here. Okay, I made it a little bit bigger than I normally would, just so that you can see it. I'm going to put my center on the point and my 0 on this line. Then I mark out at 45 degrees. Okay, 45 degrees. Now, I should just connect the dots, this dot to this dot, and of course I'm going to extend it until I meet up with the other line, if I can. Okay, now since you used a pencil and not a pen, you're just going to erase that part. And now we should have two 45s. Because this one is 45, and we know that if this is 90 and this is 45, well, this one has to be 45 because it adds up. I can double check it. Give her one of those. Say, yep, 45. Perfect. So sometimes it gives you 3 and it asks you if it's possible to make the triangle, and then if it is, to actually draw the triangle. Okay, so that would be really good practice. These are tough questions here. And then as you get going on, it just gives you 2 angles, find the third. Here's 2 angles, find the third type of question. It also asks you on your on that bottom question on your worksheet, which is kind of like a level 4 type question, it gives you 3 angles and it says, can you construct a triangle labeled DEF with these angles? And then you have to explain yes or no. And obviously the explanation is the part where I get a good understanding of where you are at as far as understanding the triangles and 180 degrees. Okay, so your EP 6 is questions 1 to 3 all. There's only 3 questions on here. And again, a lot of that similar stuff that I was just explaining on the board here. Finding missing angles. Sometimes you're given one angle, but the other 2 are the same. Sometimes you're given a reflex angle and then one on the inside. So, you'll be able to use this sheet to find some answers just the exact same way we've been doing. So, if you ever need to refer back to some of the examples I did earlier on, just rewind the video and give her a go. As usual, if you have any questions, feel free to message me on Google Classroom or have a parent email me anytime. Okay? So good luck with our lesson 6. I hope things are going well at home, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys soon again in class. Okay, have fun.